everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is TRG. In today's video, we're going to be talking about when success creates distance between friendships and people. Okay, and we've all kind of been there before. You start growing, and suddenly people around you feel further and further away. And it's not always jealousy. Sometimes it's actually a lot deeper than that. So today we're going to explore some of those things and some of those themes. Before I get started though, if you like my content, please like, comment, subscribe, or just even comment to tell me if this type of content interests you and if you found it useful. From the bottom of my heart, the point of this channel honestly is to help out other people. It's never to be famous or rich or whatever. That wasn't my intention of starting this channel. So I would appreciate if you just like, comment, subscribe, or do whatever you can do to engage with my content. And give me feedback. If it's bad, let me know, and I'll try to change it as much as possible. Cool. On to the rest of the video. So let's first and foremost define what success is, okay? And that can be different for everyone, but it's not just about money or a career growth. It includes stuff like marriage, having kids, moving to other cities for whatever various reasons, and lifestyle changes. The point is that success in relation to those subtopics just means that there's change. And when change comes, it always affects relationships. Okay? So sometimes let's tackle the elephant in the room, money. Okay? So that's the first thing that most people think about. Different industries that you work in are going to have different earning potentials. So I used to work in the hotel industry, and although there are aspects of it that I miss, it's definitely a very low-paying industry comparatively to what I work in now, which is IT. And that earning gap sometimes can cause separation or differences between you and your friends, right? Different earning potentials, different career trajectories, different career growth patterns. You know, some of your friends might be in investment banking where it's exponential growth, for example. But if you're in something that is like food and beverage, maybe it's a very gradual incline. I know back in the day when I was working in the hotel industry, in order for you to get kind of up there, you basically have to wait for someone to retire. There would be people there that would be a sales manager or whatever for life, and you'd be waiting for them to get to 65 or 70 or whatever in order to just call it a day until an opening popped up. Or you would have to be open to moving, and sometimes moving halfway across the world for another opportunity. That's just kind of how the hotel industry works. Okay. Lifestyle differences could emerge from stuff like that. So you could be, if you're in a high earning potential bracket, you could be spending a lot more money and a lot more money in different places, right? Lifestyle inflation, we all know that this is the case with a lot of people. So you're dining at different restaurants that maybe your friend that works in food and beverage can't afford to dine in, right? And that often has causes a gap, not necessarily intentionally or maliciously, but it does cause a gap nonetheless. And there's kind of unspoken discomfort between both sides with stuff like that because you don't really want to bring it up and they don't want to really bring it up, and it's kind of awkward for you to bring it up and be like, hey, maybe we could just go to a cheaper restaurant, and you don't want that other person to feel bad as well. So it's kind of a weird dance and balancing act that is kind of difficult to really navigate. I think honesty is the best policy, but everyone has a different approach about this. So let's talk about time, which is the next thing I think with success and career trajectory. We're still on this path, but this relates to a lot of different things with family as well. So promotions equals more responsibility, right? Generally speaking, a company is willing to pay you more money as long as you're willing to do more for them, right? So if I was in a company X, for example, just selling as an AE, so an account executive, that's just, hey, I clock in to do my job, I close deals, I take my commission, and I go home, cool. That's worth something to the company because I'm bringing in net new business. But the problem is I'm not extending those responsibilities to stuff like training other people, hiring and scaling other people, mentoring, helping them build out process or, standard operating procedures. I'm keeping track of metrics to see how the team is doing and where we're going in kind of like the new direction of things. So those are, more responsibilities. And my point is that more responsibilities take over more time, right? That's just how it works with, corporate, right? And with more responsibilities comes less free time, right? So, you are going out to dinners, going to conferences, meeting with your boss after hours for drinks, or your colleagues. Things just kind of get in the way, or clients, for example. It's not necessarily relegated towards, employees or coworkers in the company or superiors. So it could be clients that you're actually going to talk to, right? I remember a long time ago, when my dad got promoted in KPMG. Well, actually, he migrated from another firm to KPMG as a senior auditor or something like that, senior tax specialist. He thought his job was to just do audits, as he was doing the entire time throughout his career. And actually, they had a very different perspective for his job. His job wasn't to do the quote-unquote basic grunt work that you were hired to do before. His job was to go out and network and sell. That's what he was supposed to do. And he didn't want to do that. He didn't have any inkling of doing that whatsoever. But that was the company's expectation, is you've been in this industry for such a long time, you're of no value to us to do just basic auditing. I could hire someone to do that for, I don't know, $30 an hour or whatever that is. I need you to bring in $1 million accounts, right? So you can see there's an expectation mismatch, but the time dedication that it would take in order for you to do prospecting, which is out of a lot of people's wheelhouses, by the way, was just astronomical. Okay, and then consequences to all of that is you unintentionally stop showing up, right? So you have to postpone dinners or meetups with friends, and it's not always valid, of course. I think there's a balance to that, but those things do happen. Okay. Next thing let's talk about is environmental shifts, right? So what happens with that? That's kind of, I was alluding to some of those things, but new expectations for yourself on responsibilities, or if you were to move or have a different set of circumstances, like you got married or you had like a kid or something like that. So work dinners, networking events, conferences, company culture obligations, retreats, like a company getaway. I'm in talks with a company right now that does 2 quarterly getaways, and then an annual retreat. So that's 3 times a year I might have to fly to the East Coast just to do that, right? And during that time, I have to put other work on pause as a result, right? So that would take me away from other things. Okay. And depending on the culture that you're in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was basically mandatory in Southeast Asia for you to do this, right? If you worked in Japan, Hong Kong, South Korea, like you don't only work your 8 to 5 o'clock or overtime. 8 to 5 o'clock is being generous. 8 to like 8 o'clock. Okay, so let's say 12 hours at like the minimum. You go out for barbecue after that, right? Like in fried chicken or whatever with your boss, and then you go like to the club in KTV to like drink, or a strip club, or wherever your boss wants to go. And you're getting home pissed drunk at like 4 in the morning, and then sleeping 3 hours and doing it all over again. Okay, and this was like kind of the unspoken rule that you were supposed to do this. So it really depends on the culture, but you can imagine how much obligation that would be. It's like almost part of your job description to be able to do that, and you would just kind of be quote unquote peer pressured or forced into it. Right? It's gotten way better over the years. That's what I've been told, especially in culture like Japan, where that was like super prevalent. Like if you ever been to Japan, back in those times, you would walk the streets at night or even in the morning, actually, and you would see just like businessmen passed out completely plastered in their business suits, like on like a bus stop street bench, or like huddled in a corner or whatever, because they were like so drunk and they like couldn't even make it to a hotel or a capsule hotel at night. So stuff like that happens all the time, right? So social replacement, I think, is a really big theme that I want to talk about. You basically exchange your colleagues for your friends, right? In your daily life, because you're almost spending more time with your colleagues than your actual friends, right? Like your other circle of group of people. Obviously, colleagues can become friends, but those are your work friends, and then you have your kind of like people that you grew up with in your life. Okay, and proximity creates connections, right? So it's natural that if you're working 16 hours a day, 5 days a week, or maybe it's 7 days a week, you're gonna get pretty close to the people that you're like side by side with because you're literally spending more time with them than your own family. Okay, so different priorities, different lives. That's kind of like the next point that I want to make. Life milestones creates divergence. So, one person builds a career, they advance in their career, they get to manager, senior manager, executive, director, whatever. And then, someone else focuses on family and their pride and joy is their kids. They devote all their free time to their kids. And another stays with the same routine, right? So I've even experienced this in my own life pretty deeply, to be honest with you. I've had probably half of my friends get married over the last 10 years and have one or two kids. And I definitely spend less time with them than I would like to. And some of it's on them and some of it's on me. It's very different. When you have young kids, your kids have to nap at 1 or 2 in the afternoon. They sleep till 5, and then they get up, they have some dinner, they play around, and then they're in bed again by 8:30, right? So if you go out to dinner with them, like I remember when I went to go see my cousin in Toronto, when I was living in Toronto, um, we had to have dinner at like 5:30 at the latest, and then they had to take off from the restaurant at probably like 7 to get back home by 8, and then brush their teeth and go to bed. Like 8:30 would be their kids like sleeping time. So you can imagine, like for someone like myself who has dinner early is considered 6:30 for me, right? Normal time is probably like 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock some days. So that's like all out of sorts, right? And that was purely based on kind of divergence of life responsibilities, okay? And that could follow along with career as well. But my point is that after I feel like high school and maybe university, everyone kind of like diverges into their own path. Some people stay the same path. Some people branch off into family. Some people like lean in way forward into like corporate, and that just consumes them. And I feel like I've held a pretty good balance within those 3 realms, but I don't have a family myself, so I can't speak to that aspect of it. I can just speak to that aspect on the other half of it as being someone that's single but having friends that have had family and whatever kids. Okay, so the next part that I want to talk about is the invisible distance. Okay, so there's not really conflict that happens, but you just feel that there's a distance between you two. Like you might have had a friend that you're really, really close to before. You thought this was going to be a friend for life, and then because of life circumstances caught up with you and them as well, you just grew farther apart and farther apart and farther apart. And before you know it, it's almost like you send them a message once per Christmas or once per birthday when you guys used to hang out every single day or every single weekend or whatever that might be. And that sucks, right? Like it's that person was a big part of your life. You were a big part of their life. And then things just kind of happen. And it wasn't, necessarily because of a fight or conflict or disagreement or anything like that. It's just people sometimes grow apart. And sometimes that's just part of life, people grow apart. They start to like different things, or they like the same thing, and then someone else likes just different things, and then you just go farther and farther apart, right? So that sometimes comes with age and the circle of people you keep. But yeah, conversations feel different, less in depth, less frequency, less about like emotional connection and vulnerability, rather than just surface level stuff like, hey, how's it going? How have you been? What have you been up to? Rather than talking about like deep things that might be bothering you that you used to confide in them with, and they used to confide in you with, right? To get help, right? And the relationship sadly fades away quietly, so it's almost like a slow death, rather than something that's like explosive, like you guys were like fist fighting or like throwing stuff at each other, and you were like telling your roommate to get the fuck out or something like that. Like most of the time it's really not that dramatic. It's just like a slow death, and then eventually you're like, wow, I haven't seen this person in like 2 years, you know. So those things happen for sure. Is it your fault? So next point I want to make. Sometimes I think with these things, especially when you grow apart from people, you start to blame yourself for a lot of that. And you ask yourself, am I changing too much, right? You almost feel guilty of your success in whatever realm you've decided to invest your time into. And a lot of times, I mean, I think most things in life, when there's some kind of conflict, there's like shared responsibility between both parties. I can honestly say that right now, I do have a very close friend that I haven't talked to in a while, and so I'm guessing that they're upset with me about something. But I can't really imagine what, to be honest with you, because I haven't really talked to them in a very long time. And I've tried to make it a point to actually message this person and his wife, and really to no avail. So I don't quite know what's going on there. I'd like to make amends if it was actually something that I did, but I've kind of examined it in my head, and I personally just don't think that I've done anything wrong because I haven't really interacted with this person to actually do some wrong things to them in their relationship or whatever, right? So, you know, I think that's one of the cases where it's like, is it my fault that I could have reached out more? Yeah, I guess so. But but the phone works two ways. They could have called me, you know. They could have set a time to hang out with me. So it's kind of like an impasse, if you will. Growth sometimes requires trade-offs and sacrifices. I don't want to say that you should trade off your friendship because I think in my middle age, I realized that friends and family are, and your health, I guess, right, and your happiness are really the only things that you can take along with you. So you can, and putting all your marbles in the corporate basket, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people just get laid off after giving 20 years to an organization their heart and soul, and they thought this was where they were going to be for the rest of their lives, and then they were sent back. And it's happened so many times before. So, you know, is that always worth it? I don't know. You got to determine that for yourself. But I don't know if everyone's meant to grow on the same trajectory that you are really driven and striving for, right? And I remember fondly I had a college classmate, and we were going to school together, and we were all discussing future plans of where we were going to work. And for her, I guess maybe I was too immature to really understand that. For her, her goal was literally just to settle down and have some kids, maybe have like a basic job at a front desk or something like that. And I couldn't really understand it at that time because I was like, well, you paid all this money to go to this prestigious school, and you worked really hard to get here and graduate, and now like it's not. It feels like you're almost giving up your career. But fast forward to now at my this has been 20-something years. I think I get it now. I mean, to her, that's really what mattered the most, right? So by not growing as much as other people, she grew in different ways. I guess that's the best way that I can kind of put it. Okay, next point. So what do we do about this, right? What do we do with all this information, these circumstances, and these situations that we find ourselves in? So I think number one is to come to terms with natural shifts that happen within our relationships in our lifetimes. There's just things that you cannot control. And sweating over every single minute detail of every single thing that you cannot control is just going to drive you nuts. It doesn't make sense for you to be able to do that. And it certainly doesn't make sense for you to blame yourself for every single thing that happens, right? And every single friendship that ends up in poof. Identifying core people that you really hold dear to yourself. So I think that this has been an important part of my reflection over time. Really seeing the people that I really care about and really want to spend time with, and actually like go above and beyond to leave messages for and advice for and whatever. Like, it's not that many people. It's not that many people. It doesn't need to be. Like I just look back at my past, and I used to be seen, I guess, as one of the popular kids when I was in high school and I guess in university. And sure, I knew a lot of people and had a lot of acquaintances, but like, how many of those people are actually in my life now, right? Like, fast forward 2 decades, how many people that I knew before are actually in my life right now? Not that many from those people back then. I don't even know if I would recognize them if I walked across them in the street. Maybe they would recognize me. I don't know. Sometimes that happens. Like, I've been at stoplights or walking on the street, and then someone says, "Hey, G," like, and I stare at them because I'm like, "Hey," and like I don't recognize them, right? So it's kind of proof to you that we've been so far apart that like I did not even like put a face to the name, or maybe their faces have changed so much. But the point is, like, we've grown so distant during that time that I cannot even physically recognize them anymore, right? Okay. Be intentional with your time. I think this is really important. I just had brunch yesterday with my friend, his wife, and his kid, and I really cherish that time that I get to spend with them, even though it's it's 2 hours every, I don't know, every other week. Because I know they could be doing anything else with their time, really. And I guess likewise, I could be doing anything else with my time. But we both make it a time to sit down and just kind of reflect, and we go to like a cheap diner that we love, and we chat. We chat about life. We chat about what's going on. We catch up, and it's become almost a ritual for us, to be honest with you, to meet there every 2 weeks. The only times that we usually miss are the fact when one of us are out of town. So when I'm on a trip to China or whatever, I'll be gone for 6 months, but I try to make it a point to keep in touch with him as much as possible. And likewise, if he's in Japan or Chile or something like that, he does the same. So I make it a point to do that, right? And I make it a point to spend time with my sister, like I'll probably be having dinner with her tonight. But it's really important that you be intentional with the people that you want to spend your time with. Okay? You have a limited amount of time on this planet. Please identify the core people that you really care about and be intentional with that time. I could be watching Game 7 right now, and I'm not doing that because I'm going to go to dinner with my sister. That means more to me than Game 7. Okay? Let go without resentment. So, don't resent yourself. Don't resent other people. As much as you can. Obviously, there's sometimes every situation is going to be different, but sometimes you just gotta let relationships go. It happens, and holding on to that hate or that grudge is just going to consume you. It's better to just let those things go. Okay. So, in conclusion of this video, success changes your time with your environment, your priorities. I think those are things that you just need to accept with life and how things ebb and flow. But the important thing for you all to understand is just be you. Identify the people that you love, that you like to be around. That doesn't have to be a lot of people, it can be core people. Be intentional with spending time with them. Actually carve out time to spend with them rather than saying, I'm busy all the time. You can really evaluate where you need to spend your time, and those things should be at one of your highest priorities. As long as you enjoy spending time with them and they enjoy spending time with you, right? That's a different topic for another day. But please be intentional with that. We only have a finite amount of time on this planet. Nothing is guaranteed or promised to us. So make sure you surround yourself with the people that genuinely care about you. Not necessarily that people are going to give you a wake up in life or whatever, but genuinely care about you. Okay, that's it for today. If you liked my video, guys, please like, comment, subscribe. I would really, really appreciate that. We try our best to work hard on these videos as much as we can. We have limited amount of resources, but we want to see the channel grow. We want to give more back to the community to try to help out everyone that's out there. So thank you so much for spending the afternoon or whenever you're listening to this with me, and stay tuned for a video next week. Thank you.